Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening. It's always great to see families here, especially when the little ones are able to come out and join us too. This is an evening that hopefully you find some practical resources to have some conversations at home about financial literacy. I'll go through about who we are, how this all came about, and then share some resources with you all so you can have some fun at home with financial literacy conversations. So before I do that though, I put this up here on the screen. Would you rather? We have two stores. Store A is offering 30% off one pair of jeans, and Store B is $30 off one pair of jeans. And my question to you is, would you rather buy from Store A or Store B? Anybody? Neither?
How much is it?
You don't know the
basis price of the jeans.
The basis price?
If it's less than $100, I'll go for $30.
Yeah.
If it's more than 100, I'll go for $30.
Why is that?
Because I did the calculation. It's going to be cheaper if you go to Store B if it's above $100.
Right, yeah, so it depends on the price of those jeans, right? And if you have a very expensive price of jeans, maybe a percentage discount makes more sense, whereas if you maybe have a cheaper pair of jeans, maybe a set amount of discount. So these are just some of the examples of the types of questions. We're going to share some resources with you here tonight and some websites that you can have these conversations at home with your children. So again, this is all about home-based financial literacy. We're going to talk about the scope of financial literacy across the curriculum from kindergarten all the way through grade 12, where students see certain different elements of financial literacy. And again, this is being offered this evening in connection with the Durham Catholic Parent Involvement Committee. So thank you to the folks from DCPIC for contacting us and collaborating to put this evening together. We're very, very excited to be here tonight. And this is the first of a 3-part learning series for parents and families about supporting your children in different mathematical concepts. We're offering 2 more of these in the new year. Before we get into the specifics of the presentation, again, as we gather here together, we're always open with opening prayer. So I'll ask you to join me in the sign of our faith in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Jesus, guard me through this day in all I do and all I say. We give you our school. We give you all the teachers and staff who work here. We give you all the children who study here. We pray our school would be a place of great discovery, adventure, and creativity. And as always, in the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen, my apologies. And as always, when we gather on our territorial lands, we acknowledge that we respectfully acknowledge we are in the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island. So my name is Dan Allen. My official title is Board Math Lead. So every school board in Ontario has someone with that position. It's a ministry-directed position, and my actual background is I'm a high school principal. I was a high school principal at All Saints a couple of years ago, but for the past 2 years I've been working at the board level as what's called a system principal, and I've been supporting math professional learning with our educators, in students, and family nights like this in our school board. And I'll let my colleague here introduce herself as well.
Hello, I'm Natalie Reed. I am a math consultant with our board. I've worked in the past as a math facilitator where I was based in 3 or 4 different schools supporting educators and students there. And for the past 3 years I've worked as a consultant. So I'm based at the board, but I'm fortunate to get out to a lot of schools again to support educators and students in math learning.
Thank you. And as Natalie said, it's always a highlight of our day if we can get into schools and do math with students. I don't know anybody who got into education to sit in an office behind a computer screen, so when we get emails from principals and teachers asking us to come out and do some work in schools, we jump at that opportunity. So we're very happy to be here tonight with you to have a chat about some of the financial literacy expectations that students will see as they work their way through the different grades in Ontario. So Natalie and I were talking last week about tonight, and I couldn't help but notice that like this line is on the same night as Taylor Swift. So you all folks are all choosing to be here with us tonight instead of downtown Toronto with Taylor Swift. But I saw this, the headline on the Canadian Press. It says, "Money comes back, but the Eras Tour doesn't." And then Fan Shell, and you can see these are some of the prices of tickets on StubHub, right? $20,000 plus per seat. And I thought that was an interesting perspective, and there is some truth to that. Yes, this tour may not come back in its entirety, but the whole statement around money comes back. It's interesting to have that perspective, and I thought that was just something curious. I don't know what that says about this person's, background or whatever, but it is an interesting statement to make for sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to move into what exactly the expectations are and how that connects with your children in schools.
So we talk about why learn about financial literacy. So finances are something that affect all of us for all of our lives. So it is applicable to real life. However, financial literacy isn't just about money concepts or managing finances. It's also about consumer and civic awareness. So when students learn and children learn about financial literacy, it helps them to develop lifelong skills. It helps them to make informed choices and also to develop as compassionate citizens. And it really is the community, school, and home that support this learning for students. And because we are a Catholic school community, we look at financial literacy through a Catholic lens. So that means we link financial literacy to concepts such as compassionate citizenship, character development, and ethical decision making. So sometimes buying the item that's the cheapest price isn't always the best decision ethically. We also think about what the church asks us in terms of our responsibility in helping those in need and generosity.
So what we are going to do now is we're going to use a software called Menti. It's a Mentimeter. So what I'll ask you to do is if you have a device, you can scan the QR code behind me, or if you go to menti.com, the website menti.com, and type in the code 48145754, you can join our Menti. So I'll give you just a moment to scan that QR code, or you can go to menti.com and type in the code at the bottom of the screen. So I will jump out of the slide deck really quickly, and we'll go to Menti. So when I think about financial literacy, I think about my childhood growing up, and I think about the question, how often did I have a parent or guardian or mentor talk to me specifically about financial literacy? Not to date myself, but I grew up before the era of Taylor Swift, and so there were times where we certainly talked about money, but it was a different time, right? And we've talked to some families here tonight. Like, I actually had to look in my house. I had to ask my daughter. She works at a wood oven pizza place. So I said, "Do you have any cash? I want to have an actual physical piece of cash," because the reality is we don't necessarily deal with this a whole lot anymore, right? A lot of times we don't have change. We don't have physical bills. A lot of times it's now just tapping a card, tapping a device, tapping a watch even. So we don't necessarily have the same types of conversations about money at home. So interesting. So this is your live responses. And again, if you want to join us, it's menti.com. The code was 48145745. And it looks like the majority of it is once in a while. So it's something that we might talk about from time to time, but not necessarily a daily topic. The next one is going to ask you to provide a rating from 1 to 5 on the following statements. How knowledgeable you feel about financial literacy, how comfortable you are in discussing those topics with your child, and how important you think it is for young people to learn about financial literacy. So I'll give you a moment to record your results there. So I think the first one that jumps out to me is that bottom one, where we see the overwhelming majority of us think it's very important that we do speak to our children about financial literacy, and absolutely. I will tell you that when we do look at our provincial EQAO results, we look at the different strands that students achieve in, and by and large, financial literacy in grade 6 and grade 9 those are the two grades that they do financial literacy questions on the EQAO assessment. That is always our top category. We do the best in financial literacy. I think a big part of that is due to the practical nature. Students in grade 6 and grade 9 certainly have a lot of thoughts about money, but it is very important for us to speak about it. And I think it's pretty typical to say that a lot of times we maybe don't quite feel as comfortable speaking to our children about financial literacy. And again, this isn't about like going through the nitty-gritty of your finances. It's about talking to students about needs versus wants, talking to them about, what does it look like to buy groceries or to buy an item, to go on a spending trip for school supplies, for example, having those conversations ongoing with kids. And then finally, I've got one more slide here for you. So this is sort of an open question. You can put in whatever you want, but which financial concepts are most important for students to understand? If you enter a word in there, it's going to form a word cloud. So I'll let you do that as well. So how this works is that the most common, if words are entered multiple times, they're going to show up towards the middle and they'll show up in a bigger font. So savings is a big one for all of us, absolutely. Debt, budgeting, investing. 20-year plan, that's a very interesting one, long-term planning. So it's one thing to plan, am I going to be good for the next couple of weeks? It's another thing to think about, where do I want to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, and what small steps can I take to get to that end goal? And again, the good thing is that these are conversations that we have with kids. Yeah, I see compounding interest in there. Retirement. What I'll do with these is I'll share them with you via this link as well. So just so you know, on the chairs when you came in, there was a bookmark. That bookmark contains a QR code. That's not the Mentimeter QR code. It's a QR code to a Durham Catholic District School Board website that we have created that has financial literacy resources, including the games you played out in the atrium earlier this evening, as well as it will have the recording of tonight's presentation there for you as well. So if you want to look at it again, or if people weren't able to attend, that will be available for them there as well. But that's all in this QR code. What I'll do is I'll save these as well and include them with that website also. Thank you for that.
So looking at your role as parent and caregiver to your children, you're the first role model for your child, and it's really important that home and school work together mutually to support children in learning mathematics. As you know, financial literacy falls under the mathematics curriculum, and math tends to be one of those subjects that if you're going to have anxiety around a subject, math tends to be that one. I think sometimes maybe how we learned as students or felt at that time, we sometimes carry that into adulthood. And we just want to be careful that when we're dealing with math with our children, that we're thinking about math in a positive way and passing on positive attitudes towards math. In the mathematics curriculum, we have social emotional learning skills, and we really try with students, we talk about having a growth mindset. So instead of a student saying, I don't understand this, it's I don't understand this yet. And we want students to feel positive about math because they're more likely then to take risks. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to struggle in your learning as long as you're still persevering, because that's where you're going to learn. And we talked to them about that's actually how you start to form new pathways in your brain. So we say that you're growing your brain. So it really stems from having positive attitudes so that students will take risks and can grow in their math learning and want to pursue it later on. We know that finances are very personal, and students and their families come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different identities, and different financial circumstances. So it is really important that we know there are alternate perspectives in dealing with finances, depending on the family, and that we are open and create a safe space for those different perspectives to be heard.
Yep. And so now we're going to take some time to go through the big ideas in the curriculum, just to give you a sense of where students learn certain ideas. So basically there's three main areas of learning in the Ontario curriculum. This is in K through 8 in this particular case. We have money concepts, moving to financial management, and then finally consumer and civic awareness. And there's sort of a progression of learning as you go from kindergarten all the way through grade 8. So in the early grades, in K through 6, it's about understanding and identifying what money is. So again, that's why it's important. A lot of times we don't have necessarily cash in the house, but showing students what that might look like, what cash might look like. I'm going to show you another tool later on this evening that will give you an at-home digital tool that has Canadian money as a learning tool. Okay, it's called Matthie's Money. I'll show you that website in just a little bit. But identifying money, what is a quarter and what is the value of it? What does a $10 bill look like? What does a $20 bill look like? Making change, and an introduction to needs versus wants. So I want that big shiny toy, but I need to go and buy some groceries to feed the family. We try to do this as much as possible with hands-on activities. So the games that you were playing out here this evening are all games that we would play with students in our classrooms. So they try to do it through games, through puzzles, activities, and try and make it authentic as possible. And like I said before, our results in our EQAO assessments indicate that we're doing a pretty good job at that. I said the financial literacy strand is our highest achieving strand of them all. And then the final one, encouraging young savers. So discussing how to set up maybe a piggy bank or a savings jar and encourage saving from an early age. So some examples of this could be including your child on a spending trip. So I don't know about you, I've got two kids. They're a little bit older now. They're 18 and 21, but they still cost a lot of money. And I'm sure there are many, many times where you've gone out and either had to buy clothes, groceries, household items. Maybe you're paying for an activity for your child. Maybe it's dance or art. All of those different things are opportunities to include your child in that conversation. Include them with the grocery shop and say, our budget tonight is this amount of money. Help me pick out some items so we stay within our budget. How do we keep track of how much we spent? Maybe we have a calculator. So you notice on some of the tables out here where the students had to do some number crunching, there were calculators there, right? So we use calculators all the time. We could use that, hand your child a calculator and say, you keep track of how much we've spent and let me know when we're coming close to our budget, and let them be the accountant on the trip. Have your child count coins or bills. So again, this is something that with, we use tap and debit and credit so much, we don't necessarily handle bills, but having them, try and count bills, try and give change back. So if if the item was $16.95, I paid with a $20 bill, how much change should I get back and what might that look like? Again, giving them coins and asking for the total amount. There were a couple of games out there that were exactly that. And if you go to the link that's on the QR code and the bookmark, those games are all going to be there for you to play at home with your child. As well as you may not have access to those plastic coins, but there's actually a file on that website that is, you can cut out paper pictures of different coins to play at home as well. Okay? And again, asking your child for change from a purchase. So we're going to have another look at another which one would you rather. So again, I'll just give you a minute here to talk to your elbow partner. Which one of these things would you rather and why? The credit card expired in 1999, so.
Don't choose that one.
Yeah. Does anybody care to share which one they'd rather of our group of four? Yeah. The gift card? Why would you rather have the gift card? Because you're not spending. Yeah, it's a gift given to you. Okay.
Someone else spent.
Yeah, someone else's money. That's the best money to spend. Yes.
I'll take the $50.
Why the $50?
Because the first two are mostly vehicles spent money. The gift card, the value is unknown to me. $50 is $50.
$50 is $50. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which would you rather?
Well, because you most likely always have your phone. If you don't have your wallet, you can't take the credit card, the cash, or the gift card.
Right. Yeah. So PayPal might be an option if you're buying online. But again, it depends on what's in that account, right? Because it could be empty. I did notice our credit card here expired in 1999, so I don't think I'd want that one at all.
That was my peak.
Yeah.
Credit card.
Yeah.
For me, credit card, because many of them have cash backs, so at least get something back.
Right, so a cash back option. You notice that in the word cloud we had, someone had like a loyalty program or a cash back, right? Yeah. So again, depending on that credit card, if the interest rate's not too bad or we can keep the balance low, that might be a great option too, right? It depends. Yeah. This is an example of a task we did with the grade 6 class in one of the professional learning series that we ran. This actually was last year around the Super Bowl, so I went on to I get the Best Buy emails, and so I click on them because there's lots of shiny toys in there, and these TVs were advertised, and so I was looking at some different options, and I gave this grade 6 class, which one would you rather buy from? So we have 3 different companies here, so I'll just give you a minute to have a look at that. Which one would you rather purchase from? So in grade 6, we talk about the concept of cost of borrowing. We don't get into specific, like the interest rate is 3.9%, any of that. But we talk about the concept of if you're going to take a loan or borrow money to make a purchase, it may cost you more than just buying something outright. But you'll see some other concepts in here that we introduce to students, like the concept of something happening bi-weekly or monthly or an admin fee, right? So like little bits and pieces that we tack in there. And again, these are great conversations to have with students. We actually, this class, we had to like ask some of them to stop working on it because they were so into the math behind it, right? And there was one little guy, he's like, what, it was the 3,200, he goes, I'll just buy it for 3,200, I'm done with it. I'm like, yeah, good for you, if you have it, right? If you have it. In grades 7 and 8, if we move on to grade 7 and 8, this is where we get into a little bit more of the ethics of spending. So buying and budgeting and spending wisely. We talk about simple budgets. We don't get into, again, too heavy stuff, but real life applications. And again, I think that's why we see a lot of students take to this, because they do realize that financial understanding is important for them. And they're, grade 7 and 8, they're starting to think about maybe a job. They're starting to have some other expenses as well. So this is a great opportunity to bring in some of that real life activities with them. In terms of activities for at home, again, look for ways for students, your students or your children can contribute to some of these purchases you're making. So for example, if you have a child who plays a sport, maybe you can ask them to contribute around the house. They're not going to have a job necessarily at this age, but they can, they can clean, they can help cook, they can help, walk the dog, all those different things, and you could pay them for that and then have them contribute in that way, right? So it may not be a job for them at that point, but you can talk about, what, when I have to go to work and I have to do something so I can earn income to support this family, and you can include them in that as well. So again, how could you do that? Have them save towards a bigger purchase. So they may have their eye on, I know this time of year, right? Maybe it's the fancy new jacket, maybe it's a pair of boots, maybe it's something else, right? You could have them contribute towards that. Again, maybe not necessarily giving you cash for it, but maybe they're going to work around the house a little bit for it. Maybe they're going to do some laundry or help in that respect. And then keep track of those savings together so they know that they're working towards that goal when they've achieved it. Discussing needs versus wants. And again, that's a very interesting concept. I think I still struggle with that as an adult, right? Because, I want all these other things, but I need to take care of my other priorities first. And then talk about other factors that are involved, like Natalie said. Are there ethical considerations? Are there environmental considerations? So I may be able to get a great deal on something from Amazon, but where is it from? Who's behind it? What is the ethics of it? Finally, as we get into the grade 9 through 12 curriculum, this is where you get into a little bit more of around the concepts of credit, interest, loans, and really it actually lands a lot in the grade 11 curriculum. So in the grade 11 curriculum, they do something called exponential functions because they're dealing with exponents, and so that's where you get into compound interest with exponential growth, and so on. We can talk about that. We can talk about loans. So I know, I remember back, this is dating myself a little bit, but back when I was, I had 2 children in daycare, and I had my grade 11 class, we were talking about car loans. And I said, I'm paying this much a week for my children in daycare. What could I be driving right now? And they took that amount and figured out what the car payments would be able to be worth. And it was like, I was looking at my old Cavalier in the parking lot thinking, yeah. Yeah, so there's certainly lots of really practical hands-on activities. And again, students in high school, they eat this up. They love the idea of what can I buy? What does that look like? What impact does interest rate have? A difference of 1% in an interest rate could be thousands of dollars, right? And so we know that, but students have to understand that, and that's what we do work with in grade 11. The other piece that is not here, but it's also part of the Ontario high school curriculum, is in the grade 10 careers class. They actually do some budgeting there as well, and it's budgeting about post-secondary options. So creating a budget to plan for what do I want to do when I'm done high school, and how can I set some goals to achieve that. Yep.
Sorry, I'll just talk considering that course. So when my daughter was taking that course, she had to create a budget for post-secondary education. And when you think about needs versus want, what she initially had budgeted for her entertainment really had to dwindle as she realized the costs of everything else. So it really is a great exercise, something great to do with your child, because they have no idea of the cost of things unless we actually go through that with them.
Other examples, and this goes into sort of more the high school element, but there's a lot of online calculators and simulators. So I know that there are, you can figure out car loans, mortgages, et cetera, using online calculators. We use those regularly when we're talking about loans in high school, or simulations as well, what might happen here, what might happen there. Discussing credit options, right? So do I want the low interest card, or do I want that card with a higher interest rate and maybe an annual fee, but I get a cash back? And at what point does one make more sense than the other? Ethical spending, again, we see that again. And then again, planning for post-secondary, which we know is huge for young people as well. So I did want to show a few resources that you could actually use at home. Again, these are going to be linked to you through this QR code, but I will jump out of the slide deck right now and show you some of these. So this is the Matthews Money tool, and it's like, I love doing this, $100, and then you can duplicate it. So, how much money do you want, right? It's just like you're printing your own money at home. But this is, yeah, I wish I need one of these for real, right? But the nice thing about this is that you can use this tool. Like, again, you may not have a bucket of coins at home, but you can use this tool to have conversations with students around, like, how much money is this, right? How much is this? Can you show me $3 in a different way? Those types of questions you can have with students. And again, this is pretty easy to use once you get kind of the hang of the navigation. You can select multiple things at the same time, and then I can say goodbye to my hundreds of dollars, right? And then go back to my coins. And so this has all the Canadian currency. Again, the nice thing about this, a lot of times when you find resources online, you're going to find American resources. This is Canadian, made by Ontario educators, and it's linked on that website.
Just before you go to the next story, just before we go to the next, we did have a question earlier about where you could find actual play money if you wanted that for your child. So through the schools, it's usually through Spectrum or Amazon that we're able to get manipulatives such as the money. But if you look at Mastermind, might be another place where you could find. Sometimes it's just that tool's great and the money looks authentic, but sometimes you actually do want that tangible, physical money. And I know at my house, we just don't have cash around the house anymore. So that's another option.
Thank you. Yeah, well, my kids had paper routes back in the day, so they did end up with loonies and toonies. But I think that even that field is drying up. Okay. There we go. Okay. The next one we wanted to show you is the Would You Rather. So again, this website, this is something that can give you some prompts to have conversations. So a couple of the questions that we had, the gene question and the credit card, gift card cash question, are from this website. I'll show it to you very quickly. One thing I will say about this website is that a lot of times when you go on this site, you'll have a lot of pop-up ads, and you'll also see a lot of American currency. I know this is a US site, but if you go down here, we have different grade levels, so kindergarten to 2, grades 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9th to 12th grades. I'll pick 3 to 5. Again, see, we get a pop-up, we'll close that.
And because it is American, it doesn't necessarily follow our Ontario curriculum. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, thank you. But you'll see again these little prompts, and these are questions. Like as a teacher, I would have this on the board when students came in, and we'd have an opening conversation about this before getting into a lesson. Those sorts of things. So these are again, some of these are financial literacy. Some of them are just other concepts. Would you rather have 500 grams of quarters or a kilogram of nickels? Again, like that goes into measurement there too as well, but there are some good examples there. Cams. So talk with our kids about money. If anyone here that take our kids to work day, the grade 9, where the grade 9 students go with their parents to the workplace. So Cam, or CFE, the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, we're behind that, and they're also behind this resource called Talk with Our Kids About Money, which is great. And so when I go into Talk with the Kids About Money, I'll click on this link. Again, we have resources, money fairs, information as well, but there's a home program in here, and if you click into the home program, all of these different tiles are different financial literacy activities. A really great resource. A lot of our educators use this as part of their financial literacy teaching in their classes. This is available to you through the link on the bookmark. And then the last thing we want to talk about a little bit is board games. So I just happened to notice over here that there's a great collection of board games, one of which is Monopoly. So again, there's Monopoly, the game of life. Payday is another game where you're physically handling cash. They do have versions of those games, like there's a Monopoly, I think, with a debit card system where you actually like swipe a card. I would probably give them the physical money and have them count it out, because there's something tangible to doing, 100, 200, 300, actually physically counting that money. But these are great. Kids love them. Again, they're a bit retro, but again, great opportunity for students to actually engage in some financial literacy and some financial learning. You have to pay a fine when you land on a certain property. All those different elements are great ways to talk to kids about financial literacy. Yeah.
And I think with children, once they find something they like, such as a movie, you watch it over and over and over again. Well, the same with board games. So my daughter was really into Life, and I have played that. I can't even count how many times. But financial literacy is linked to numeracy concepts as well. So I would always have my children be the banker. And I just noticed in terms of counting, just how well they did in terms of counting, and it's just through playing games that happened.
Okay. So, just to close up here this evening, I did want to say again, I know it's a dark evening and it's November, and we had the time change recently, but I do appreciate you folks coming out here this evening and joining us and bringing your children, and thank you for trusting us with them. I consider it a privilege to do the work I do every day, and it's great to have you here with us here this evening. I also had some thank yous I wanted to share, because I know that there's a lot of people that worked on this evening as well. I'd like to thank the members of DCPIC who are here with us this evening. Thank you for reaching out in the first place and for facilitating this. I'd like to thank the Austin staff who helped us set up here tonight, and then we had some students out there as well. So those kids are here volunteering their time tonight to be with you and be with your families. I'd like to thank Lori. Where's Lori? Lori's hiding back here. Lori Jones, our Executive Admin Assistant, and Superintendent Wilson for joining us. And we have Trustee Kim Beattie as well with us here tonight. So thank you all for being here tonight.